Hello, I'm going to talk about a text, an English text, and I want to begin with The Story of an Hour. It's a short story written by Kate Chopin on April 19th, 1894, published in Vogue on December 6th, 1894. Initially, it was written and first published under the title The Dream of an Hour. It was reprinted in St. Louis Life on January 5th, 1895. The title of the story refers to the time elapsed between the moments at which the protagonist, Louise Mallard, hears that her husband is dead and discovers that he is alive after all. The Story of an Hour was considered controversial during 1890s because it deals with a female protagonist who feels liberated by the news of her husband's death. In Unveiling Kate Chopin, Emily Toth argues that Chopin had to have her heroine die in order to make the story publishable. And now I shortly want to make a summary of the story. The story describes a series of emotions Louise Mallard endures after hearing of the death of her husband, who was believed to have died in a railroad disaster. Mrs. Mallard suffers from heart problems, and therefore her sister attempts to inform her of the horrific news in a gentle way. Mrs. Mallard locks herself in a room to immediately mourn the loss of her husband. However, she begins to feel an unexpected sense of exhalation. Free body and soul free, that was a quote from the text, is what she believes is a benefit of his death. At the end of the story, it is made known that her husband was not involved in the railroad disaster, and upon his return home, Mrs. Mallard suddenly dies. The cause of her death is ambiguous and left for analysis, as it can range from her known heart problems to psychological factors. We can ask ourselves if the real person for the death was knowing that she wouldn't be free after she sees that her husband isn't really dead. And the Story of an Hour takes on a very specific style and structure, which is perfect in the way the story is written, and the structure and style heightens the drama and the plot of the line of the story. The story follows a third-person narrative in which Mrs. Mallard is the center of action. The non-participant narrator provides access to Mrs. Mallard's life, her medical condition or state, her strict marriage, her lackluster relationship with her husband, her perspective on love she has for her husband, and her perspective on newly awakened ideas on her personal freedom, which she associates with the death of her husband. In other words, the narrator describes Mrs. Mallard's thoughts, feelings, perceptions and emotions, worries and decisions with reference to her past, present and hopes for a future in which she becomes a free, independent individual, setting the scene for the feminist change in the 20th century. Therefore, the whole story can be seen as a didactic field in which Mrs. Mallard is the didactic center. Bye.